So we said that strategic planning is important, but most important is implementation. There was a nice joke that I saw. There's a whole bunch of books and folders and all of these supplies, and this lady comes up and says, "Hey, what's all this? What is all this that's getting cobwebs, and what are they doing with all this?" So the other employee says, "Oh, those are all, strategies that we have, but they are still trying to find out a strategy that they can implement. So till that happens, these strategies are going to sit there." So in a lot of organizations, what happens is they come up with all these strategies and they do all the planning process, collect materials and everything, but because they're not implemented, they're catching cobwebs. And then there was another joke that said that, this is during implementation. They're like, "Oh, this time it's going to be a lot easier not to implement this strategy than last time, because last time's strategy, when we tried not to implement it, that took longer." In other words, implementation is where the problem happens. So the strategic planning and the implementation are very connected. But let's just go into strategic implementation to understand. It starts from the vision. If we don't know where we're going, and then if we don't know our destination, and then we're sitting in planning, are we going by a cruise ship, are we going by an airplane, are we going by a train, all of that is wasted. It doesn't matter if they're first class or they're the world's most famous airlines or the world's most famous train, because if we don't know where we're going, that is all wasted. In other words, we need to have a vision, and from vision, of course, comes strategy. Now, strategy alone doesn't help. We just spoke about implementation. Now, during implementation, why is it that it doesn't get carried out? Is that some of the things that don't happen? One is accountabilities. I mean, have we done it all the way? That is very important. Those accountabilities, when it's not there, then it falls apart. Deadlines. Are we, but within this date, this has to be done. Even the planning process, even the implementation process, when that's not there, then it falls apart. The other is taking ownership of the actions. That's very, very important. Who is responsible for what? Why something is done or why something is not done? That comes in accountability, but people need to take responsibility, which is nothing but ownership. Now, whether all of this is done or not, starting from implementation plan to the accountabilities to the ownership to the deadlines, what we need is a wonderful monitoring process. During the monitoring process, what we can do is, if we find out that something was not accountable, something is not taking ownership, what do? We need to adjust. We need to tweak the strategy process, right? Now, the most important thing from the vision to the strategy, when something has to happen, you need to involve people. People will not, I mean, just by having a vision, you cannot come with a strategy. You need to have people involved. And then for the strategy to become into an implementation plan, or for the strategies to be implemented, what we need is communication. If we don't have a communication plan, again, even before anything gets implemented, it's going to fall apart. And then we need to, when we are going into accountabilities and ownership, we need to specify who is accountable for what, who takes ownership for what, who is, does everyone understand the deadlines? Those specifications have to be mentioned, or you have to be very specific. Then comes the acting part, right? The actual acting part is something, when it's not done, it'll know when you're monitoring it. So this is in a nutshell what strategic implementation is. If we understand this, it's easier to understand planning.